Hello world of YouTube and welcome to another album review. This time around I'm discussing an album that I wanted to discuss for the past few months now, but haven't really gotten a review down that I'm really satisfied with. But hopefully this is a take that I'm walking away satisfied with. The album in question that I'm reviewing is Disasterpeace's Rise of the Obsidian Interstellar, which came out back in 2011. I recently reviewed a piece of Disasterpeace's Viralrak's discography a couple of years ago, the Fez score, which has since made it onto my top 100 albums of all time list. I really love that thing, and I really love this thing. And what makes this project really different is because Viralrak is a video game composer. He does a lot of music for video games, but this is one of the few projects of his that isn't tied to anything. And it lets him spread his wings a bit more, and it shows, and it's immaculately done because of it. This thing pushes chiptune music in a direction that I feel like could be something great. It's a lot more progressive than the typical chiptune artists, and that's not to discredit Anamanaguchi or Hi-Fi Dragons. I like those groups, and you know, I'm a really big fan of Anamanaguchi especially, but I really like the direction this could take chiptune music. It opens a gateway for something that I'm hoping catches on, and while I talk about the record, you'll get what I mean, but this thing essentially evolves into something more proggier the more it lasts. The first few tracks, Jump Arrow and Club Wolf, are very dancey, typical sounding chiptune tracks, kind of sounding like they're put through a Game Boy, and that's kind of how the whole record sounds. The only real prog side to those tracks is that he's using time signatures in a really interesting way. His percussion syncopation with the synths is really interesting. But then one of the first breathers happens, because this whole thing is dancey, but there's a few moments where he breaks that up with these interludes that are just very spacious. I think the first one's literally just called Interlude. Adrift is the first one. It's kind of just this build up of synths to the new formation, which is my favorite song, and one of the big bridges to the proggier side. It's very dancey, but it also has this spaced out moment. And there's even kind of a solo in it where the kind of lead takes a solo. But anyway, that song and the next interlude, Beta's Brilliance, are the two big bridges of the proggier side. And Beta's Brilliance is the second interlude that really gives you a really good breather. It's just this huge, grand buildup of synths and arpeggios, just kind of building and building and building and building until they rise into Ensis, or Encesis, which is the first extremely proggy song. It's still like very dancey, but it's a lot more progressively driven. It's a lot of gated synths, letting their percussion kind of guide the way the synths activate, and kind of using the time signatures and everything. And it builds up to a lot of moments. There's a lot of moments in this and a lot of the tail half of the record where the songs just kind of find these pockets where everything melts together and then explodes into a variety of other things. And Encesis has a couple of them, as do the next really energetic songs. And it's just really well paced. He could have made something extremely out there, extremely abstract, and I don't think it would have been as successful. What makes this record work is that it gradually lets you into a style that isn't really done in chiptune, but should be done much more because it's extremely compelling to listen to. And Ceases is a really good cap of that, but also Dave Reflection and Wagering Lights are more tracks that are just more drawn out, more interesting, more calculated, full of moments that still are dancey, but have more climaxes to them. The climaxes feel more grand because there's a lot more going on with the tracks. And all of this kind of builds up more and more into various cap-offs until you reach the track Counter of the Cumulus, which is kind of a two-part song. There's two grand actions that kind of happen in the song sonically, and then they kind of fade out into Submersible, which is the only song on the album that's really long, really drawn out, and extremely spacious. It really gives you a chance to breathe after everything you've kind of experienced. All of these really well calculated, really full of weird time signatures, all these weird syncopated synths and rhythm sections, to this just ambient driven synth track with chiptune drums. Everything's still chiptune, but the way it's produced almost sounds like the percussion is trip-hop influenced, which is even weirder, but it works in a very good way. But it gives you this breather before it kind of fades into this outro, which is the arpeggio synths, and a reprise of the New Formation's harmony leads, and it's just an extremely well, captivating record that is extremely well paced, really well put together, and constructed and calculated very immaculately. I love this thing. I hope other people listen to it, and I hope that more people are influenced by this record, because I feel like it could present something fresh for the genre. I love chiptune music, but a lot of people I know, or a lot of people could say that it's very niche, it's very one-directional, it's very poppy, very straightforward jams. While Anime Noguchi is one of those acts that has challenged that with some of their songs, this extremely challenges that ideal in a fantastic way. It looks at the ideals that people set forth for the genre and challenges them and puts them in a completely different atmosphere, and I love it. And another thing I like about it is the fact that it isn't a companion piece to anything, and since it's very narrative-driven, there's a lot of climaxes, there's a lot of things that are happening sonically, it can lead you to piece your own story to the record, and that's another really good charm to this record that I like. It's interesting, and it's compelling, and it's worth talking about because it presents something fresh in a genre that isn't stale, but could get stale if not a whole lot of things like this happen to it. So yeah, I love this thing. I think it's fantastic. I think Rich Freeland came together with a lovely bunch of songs, and I will have the album linked below for you to check out on his Bandcamp page. Again, my favorite song is The New Formation. I think even if you don't like chiptune music, if you can respect progressive artistry, someone who calculates synth work and all that sort of stuff, you can appreciate this record. It's great, and yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go. I have been Viralrak. You guys have good days, lives, situations, and I'll see you another day.